Hey there guys, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a little different because I'm going to be showing you how I make these starfish pendant necklaces. And if you want to make your own, all you'll need is some air dry clay, some waxed thread or other type of jewelry making cord, and some beads of your choice. Also some paint would be good, but the varnish is optional. Right, so I'm going to be making some starfish pendants for these necklaces. And I've got this air dry clay that I have previously opened, but I just keep it sealed to keep it away from the air. And then I'm just going to look up some pictures of starfish and stuff to get the inspiration flowing. There are a few different ways that I like to make them, so I'll just show you a couple, and then I also might try a few new ways this time. And this is good that I'm making these now actually, because I can feel my clay and it's actually getting a little hard, so I should probably use the rest of this up. If your clay feels a little hard, you can just squish it around for a while, and even add some extra water. I've got a little thing of water here, and I just take the small amount that I'll be using out at a time and I seal the rest away while I'm working on them. This first one, I'm going to do it like the one I already have, which I used this star cutout. Flatten it out so it's large enough and then punch out the shape. There we are. And then with these 5, I'm just going to wet them a little bit and wet the top of here. And I'm basically just going to lie them like this on top of here. But it's best to get your surface ready for the clay by like munching it up a little bit with something sharp, and then do the same with your little piece and wet them. And that's generally a good way to get these pieces on. Like that. Smooth down all the edges. And then I have this silicone tool here, a couple of them, but you could use something else, just anything like a knitting needle or like, you know, the end of a paintbrush. And I'm just going to get a little bit of water and blend these edges down. And now I might notice that the shape is a little off from how I want it, so I might just make these points a little sharper and make the starfish a little flatter. And now I'm going to put some little dots all over them. Certain starfish are certainly covered in all sorts of little dots like these. Pretty happy with this one now, so I'm just going to get something pointy. I'm just going to poke the hole through, and I generally find it better to make the hole a little larger than you think so you don't have any problems threading your thread through. This one's done. It can take anywhere up to a few hours to a day or two to dry depending on your weather. Right now it's very warm and sunny here and dry, so these will dry very quickly. And I've got a smaller amount of clay out this time because I want to make a smaller starfish. And I'm just going to dip this in my water to rehydrate it. Just been forming this one in my hands by just kind of smushing it around into this star-like shape. And then I think I'm going to just cut it down the middle. This one is quite thin, so I'm just trying to be delicate. I think what I want is for the middle to be a little more sunken in and the edges to stick up a little bit. Just add a little bit down here. You can probably see I don't really have much of a plan going into it. It's all just about shaping it and reshaping it and making it look somewhat like a starfish. The ones that are floppy like this, you just want to make sure you dry them flat. I usually dry them on a piece of oven parchment paper so that I can peel them off easily when they're dry. Now I'm just going to show you how to make one more shape that I like to do, which is kind of more of a regular, thinner sort of starfish. I have found that you don't want to make them too thin and dainty or they might break, so keep that in mind when you're making the smaller ones. Little disc like this, and cut out a starfish shape. And don't worry too much if it looks a little strange like this. Now you can pick it up and soften all the edges with some water. Pinch the top a bit like this and see, make it a bit more triangular. And then I'm just going to give this one a few little holes like that. This one's done. I'll probably make 2 or 3 more and then I'll catch back up to you when it's time to paint them. One day later, our starfish are dry. I've made 5 of them. I got these 2. This large one that I really like, and these 2 little ones. Now I've got my tub of acrylic paint. I think I'm going to paint them like blue, purple, greyish green colours again. This one I have here, I painted like blues and purples, and it matches a lot of my purple clothes. Looking at some pictures here on Pinterest, and I think for my first ones I'll lean towards these couple here, pinkish color on the outside and then more blue right at the tips. So I need some pink. Usually when you're doing fancy sculptural paintings like this, you want very thin layers and many of them. But these I'm doing to sell and I don't want them to take forever. And while I've got this color out, I might also give this one an underlayer of that greenish color. Okay, I just found this picture and this is kind of just what I was looking for. These are like the starfish that I see at the beach around where I am. And I really like these dark, almost jewel tones. Now this one's gonna have little spots or flecks of this red. And this one has this sort of coralish color on its legs. On this one, I can see the legs have this brighter blue. And put that right on the tips of the legs. A little bit of this light green color. Now these two are done. They look a little strange in this light, but you get the picture, I think. I just kind of, there's multiple layers and I just paint them kind of like the picture. Okay, I've painted all of them and they're all dry now. So the next step is very important and it is varnishing the starfish. This varnish that I use for my oil paintings is gloss varnish from Art Spectrum. Any varnish is fine really. And I'm just going to give them at least 1 or 2 coats. Makes them a lot tougher and more durable. It gives them the kind of wet look like they've just come out of the ocean, and I think it also makes them look a little nicer quality, not just like air dry clay, because it gives them more of a ceramic look. I'm just gonna do the top side and let it dry and then do the underside of all of them. Look how cool that's looking already. Another way you can do it is thread something or put some wire through the little holes and then just varnish the whole thing and have them hanging, but this is my more lazy way to do it. Right, well, it's time to make the necklaces now and put everything together. So I have a bunch of these waxed threads. I also use this cord for pine needle baskets and many other crafts, so I think it's a very useful thing, and I have it in many colors to have if you like to craft. But I think other cords will work just fine as well, jewelry making, rope, twine. And before I start, I usually go through my beads and pick out all the ones I think will work pretty well for this project. I put them in just a little bowl here to make it a little easier for me while I'm twisting the cord together, so I can just grab a bead instead of searching for all the colors I want. While we're on the topic of beads, I want to show you a few new ones I got. This pack 50 cents and it has these really cute little fish beads, and I did buy the whole packet just for these beads, so I'm not going to use them for this, but something else. Got all these beads from my sister-in-law, which I don't think will work with these colors here, but I do really love. Look at these green ones and these green ones, and like a lot of these are glass beads. My number one tip for collecting beads is to buy them secondhand. You can get them so much cheaper. So I get necklaces that I just take the beads off if they're a good price. If I find glass beads on the necklaces, or if I find big bundles of beads, that's how I got most of these beads. It was just like these big bags for $3 of recycled beads. So many beads in the world that we really don't need to buy a whole lot of new ones usually, but also you just get them so much cheaper because, you know, new beads can be quite expensive. But anyway, back to the tutorial and I'll show you how to finish off these necklaces. So this is the kind of necklace that we're going to be making. This is obviously a little different because it's a shell one, but you see I usually put twists that go up, sometimes with little beads, and then it has a point that it will stop, and then this part is like the drawstring, so I pull these little beads and this goes up on your neck to tighten it. I really like this method of tying it. I can show you how to put it really securely on when I'm finished, but that's the kind of thing I'm going to be making. So just choose which colors I think will go best with each starfish. So I'm going to start with this one, and though I was thinking the blue might work, it's just not quite the same shade as that, so I'm going to do this darker brown color. I already have some beads that I think will look really nice because these light pink beads are very similar to this purple on the starfish. Now we're going to cut 2 pieces of the cord. One of them is going to be longer, around about 100 centimeters I'd say, and then I just fold it in half like this, so we've got 50. And then the other one about 60, so that when you fold it in half it's like a ruler length. And they're both folded in half now, so we're going to put them together so that we've got them at the middle. And I just sort of squish them together for a while to try and get them really pointy and sharp, and this does work better with the waxed cord, because the wax kind of melts a little bit into the shape that you want. And then I poke from the front to the back We've got the loops coming out here, and then you're just going to get all of these long tails and poke them all through like that, and then when we bring this down, it makes this nice loop and secures the star. Now we're going to start the rope twist, so make sure you have a long and a short string on each side, and these 2 strings on each side are going to make up the ropes. So we'll start with one side. You can look up a tutorial for this, they might explain it a lot better, but it's a simple rope twist. So what we do is we get the top one and we're going to twist it clockwise like this, and you're going to get the bottom one and you're also going to twist it clockwise, and then we're going to twist them anti-clockwise together. The way that I do this that feels a lot easier in my hands is I hold the necklace like this, and I get the top one and I twist to the right, and then I grab the bottom one here and I just twist it over like that to the left, and then I get the top one, twist it over that one. It may take a little time to get the hang of, but this is easier because when you're holding it like this, it kind of keeps the twists from unraveling, so you only really have to work with one twist at a time. You twist it together, twist the top one to the right, and then back to the left together. Top one clockwise, and then twist them together anti-clockwise. And now we're just going to keep twisting these together until you want to add a bead. Alright, so you can see how the twist is coming together, and now this point just here I want a little bead. So I'm going to stop my twist for a sec, and I'm going to get one of the cord, doesn't matter which one, and I'm going to thread a little bead onto it. I'm going to do this dark brown bead. It's going to sit it there like that, and then I'm going to get the one that is not being threaded through and continue the twist. Twist to the right, and then twist it around that bead, you see, like that. And twist the next one to the right, and twist them together. And so just going to continue the rope twist with the bead inside. Right, so I've gone a little further, and I'll just show you one more time how I add the bead. Just put my finger here where I've stopped the twist and get one of the cords, and this time I'm going to do one of this light pink beads. I'm going to just thread it on like that, pull it down to where the end of my rope twist is, and then get that top one that's not got the bead threaded on, bit clockwise and then anti-clockwise, just tight around that bead. Then hold that and do the next one. Once you've done a few, you can be sure your bead's not going anywhere. Alright, so this is the part that's going to be around your neck here, and then we're going to do a knot, and there's going to be a long thin part that is able to be pulled and tightened. Ideally you want this piece here to be around about the length from the front of your neck to the side of your neck, or like to the front of your neck all the way to the back of your neck, so that you can pull it up to like a choker kind of size, or let it down longer if you want. So I do mine around about 17 centimeters. That's kind of what works well for me. And now I get to the end of my rope twist, and I'm just going to do a knot. And I pull it nice and tight. And the great thing about using the wax cord is that you can pull it really tight. It doesn't seem to come loose. It kind of like melds together and sticks to itself pretty well because of the wax. And so that's one side done. I'm going to do the other side and meet up with you when I'm at the end of that. But now we've got a knot at the end of both of the rope twists. So I'm just going to get the shorter end of each of them and chop it off with a little bit of a tail. And then usually I'd do this with a lighter, but I've just got a match. Just going to melt the end, and you can smush it kind of down until it all is kind of just like one piece. Alright, so now you can see we've got these knots cleaned up, so it goes from the 2 twist braid thing up to just 1 string. And now we want to be able to fit it over our head but not have so much excess cord. So whatever the size is that you feel like you can slip it over your head, that's kind of the size you want. What I usually do is just grab the necklace like this and hold it kind of in a certain spot as if that's where the end of the cord is, and then see if I can fit it over my head. That's a little bit tight, so I'll go out to about here, and that will fit on. So then add a little bit extra because that's where the end of our slip knot is going to be, but then the end of our actual pieces here are going to be a little bit longer. So mine, I usually have around about 32 to 33. I also do sell these, so I need it to be like big enough that it can fit on some with a larger head than I have. So just holding this up against my ruler, I'm going to put the knot about here. So I'm going to do the first one. I'm going to put a bead on the end of here so that it's easier to grab the strings and pull. But just to make sure the bead doesn't go through, I'm going to do a second knot right on top of that first one. I kind of hold them like this as I bring in the knot and move it up or down accordingly. Put the beads on, more little brown ones to match, and I'll just thread it on like that and then tie another knot at the end, or two, depending on how big the hole is. You want to make sure it doesn't come off. I'm going to chop most of it off the end, but I do like to leave a little piece there. I find that when I have a little bit like this, when I burn it and that string and wax melts down a bit, it kind of has a little bit more of it just to burn and kind of squish down onto the bead to make sure that the bead doesn't go anywhere. Right, so here's my necklace, and these are the little end tails. So I kind of have them just sitting here side by side, and I'm going to get another little piece, and this only needs to be no more than 20 centimeters long. I often use just a little offcut, and then I'm going to sit it underneath those two pieces. And now this, I believe, is called a square knot, so you can look up a tutorial for this if I don't explain it very well. Pull one of the pieces, I'm going to start with the right side, over top like that, like a loop, and then this left side is going to go over top of that little spot here, and then it's going to go under the two threads and come up from underneath this loop. And then I just hold these while I pull it tight. And that makes one of the sides. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side, starting with this left piece. Cross it over top those two pieces, and then the right one is going to go over top and underneath and come up from underneath that left loop. And then I hold it tight while I pull it. I only do like 4 or 5 of these usually. And once you're happy with the amount of knots you've made, then you can chop off these pieces. Once again, we're just going to be burning them and melting them onto that knot. Melt that down, squish it onto that knot so that nothing comes undone. And do the same with the other side. There is our clean, finished sliding knot. And you see it slides up and down. And here's our lovely starfish necklace. And I do have more necklaces to make because I've got these 4 more starfish. I'll just show you a couple little ways that I might tie the knots differently or thread the beads while I make the last few. Another way I like to start the necklaces off, 2 ends of the 2 pieces of string and threading them through from the front to the back. One of the whole pieces of string just going through and becoming one of the twists, and the other string is for the other side. Just make sure one side is longer than the other. Just begin the twist like that, pulling very tightly at the beginning. The string will kind of stay on the side of the starfish. You can see then how this one kind of just looks like it's coming straight off the side, more minimal, whereas this one has more pieces strapping around it. Sometimes I like to give the necklace a nice repeating pattern with the same beads lining up on each side. And other times I like to have it a little more natural. More like I imagine an ocean mermaid necklace might be just spaced out with different colours. I finished this necklace too, which you can see I've just used 2 different colours for the cords. I think that's really pretty when I twist them together. And you'll see I also added a bead right at the top of this one. So I just threaded the bead through the 2 light coloured strings, and I just sort of tied this knot around them, but there are many other lovely ways that you can do that. And there are also many different ways if you look up how to thread a pendant onto string like this. Here are the finished necklaces. If you hear them clink together, they sound really pretty. First, of course, you're going to pull the knot so the necklace is really large. Put it over your head. And then what I do is I tighten the knot to make sure the necklace is as tight as I want it. And then, a very important step, is I just do a simple single knot like this. And that keeps the necklace from coming undone. I wore these heavier pendants for a long time and realized that the knots weren't really holding very well, especially with the waxed thread because it's a little bit slipperier, until I started putting that extra knot in. Now they don't move at all, and they're very easy to take off as well. Pull it around so it's backwards, drag the knot tighter a little bit, and then you can just undo this little knot Something about the star shape as a necklace I really love, especially making them starfish and look really aquatic. But if you don't want to go to all the effort of making the clay pendants, you can make the lovely necklaces in the same fashion, but with seashells as the pendants instead. I just drill the holes, smooth them down, and I like to add a little bit of varnish to make them extra shiny like they're right from the water. You can also paint things on them, so I've done pelicans, and sometimes I make these as just little key rings as well. I've made quite a few necklaces before, and this is my favorite go-to way to make them that I have kind of come up with or modified for myself, though I know that there are many other ways you can do it. I just thought I'd share the kind of necklaces I like to make and maybe inspire you to make some seashell or starfish necklaces for yourself. Maybe bring a little bit of mermaid magic to your everyday life. Thanks very much for being here and coming along with the process, and feel free to tag me on my Instagram if you end up making any of the starfish type necklaces. Hope you had a lovely Christmas and happy 2025. I am really excited for the places my art will take me this year and being able to share it with all of you. Goodbye.